Hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Just some quick reminders. Your microphone will be muted and your video is turned off during this session. You can type your questions. I have two of my colleagues here waiting for your questions as Education USA. Please write to them if you have any questions along our session. This session will be available on our YouTube channel later, and they will have closed captioning available. Welcome once again. All right, so this session's title is Studying an Undergraduate Program and the Opportunities Available in Hispanic Serving Institutions, available for you as a Mexican student. So we are going to start then, just describing in general what Education USA is. Education USA is a global network of advising centers from the US State Department. Our goal is to give you access to free resources to US studies. Education USA targets students, higher education institutions, governments, and other organizations. Okay, so before we fully start, I have here some very frequently asked questions. The first question is, do you offer scholarships? So Education USA is not a scholarship organization per se. We give information and formation for our users on how to get some scholarships, opportunities, or just how to do your process in order for you to study in the USA, a higher level institution. Second question, do you offer English courses? Well, we are not a school either. We are a net of information centers. So we don't specifically offer English courses, although some of our services may include some conversation clubs, writing clubs, writing boot camps, and other resources for our users. But we don't offer English courses specifically, although we can help you locate some good English courses, especially in the United States. Another frequently asked question about Education USA is, do you have agreements with US institutions? And that is kind of a hard question to answer because we do have an agreement and an understanding with all higher education institutions that are accredited in the USA. And that agreement is for us to collaborate in order to get international students to study in the US. Another important question that we are frequently asked is, do you offer support for an academic exchange? And that is exactly what we do. We accompany you in the process when you are interested in getting an opportunity to study in the USA, especially a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a doctorate degree, etc. So welcome again. We are going to start our presentation. Once again, we're talking about studying a bachelor degree in the US. We are going to start with this interactive activity. Sorry, the repetition. I'm going to ask you to go to menti.com and enter the code that you see on your screen. The code is 79275627. Or you can just go right ahead and scan the code that you have on your screen right now. I'm going to get out of my presentation for a minute so I can go and display this for you. Just a second. Okay, so if you wrote the code, you got there, you got here into my presentation. I'm going to wait a minute. Oh, thank you very much. So my first question for you, and the objective of this is just to get to know you a little bit better. Where do you join us from? just go right ahead, open the presentation and click on your area. Excellent. Wow. So we have people from various locations I can see. Great. May I remind you, we are at menti.com. And I guess my colleague is sharing with you the link for our presentation. All right, excelente. How interesting. Okay, so with the same link, stay with me. We are going to go to the next slide. The second question is, do you know the name of your Education USA advisor? If you know, who is the advisor that you have closer to your location, write his or her first name. Okay, you can also write no, thank you. Okay. All right, great. This is a great opportunity for you to go and find it. We are going to have the links later on. Excellent. All right. May I remind you the code is 79275627. All right. Thank you for joining. Then what field of study do you or are you considering for your undergraduate studies? Okay, we have psychology, health, education. Some people don't know yet. Art, psychology. Okay, we have some colleagues here. Economics, finance. All right. This is very interesting, you guys, to get to know all the different backgrounds of people interested that joined today. Thank you very much for your participation. All right, so what aspects of getting into an undergraduate program represents the biggest challenge for you so far? And I gave you some options, so just choose one. Identify my options, finance my studies, complete applications, apply for my visa, organize my departure. What sounds more challenging for you? Okay, maybe I have some lag here. Okay. Great. All right. We have some shared apprehensions or worries. Great. All right. Excellent. Great. So as you can see, you have a lot of things in common. People joining us have a lot of experiences that are shared, that are common. All right. Thank you very much for that. I'm going to go ahead and thank you for your participation. I'm going to go back to my presentation, okay? So thank you for your activity, for this activity, for responding my questions. So if you noticed, I offered you some questions in the last survey, and those I took from our 5 steps to study in the United States. You see, Education USA has organized all the chaos into 5 very identifiable, very easy steps to follow in order for you to start a new program in the US. A bachelor degree, an associate degree, a master's, a doctorate, etc. And you have them on your screen. Research your options, finance your studies, complete your application, apply for your student visa, and departure. Prepare for your departure. And you are looking at our screen. You can see that I included some approximate time lapses. And today, I guess, is the beginning of your next 18 months for this process. So this whole thing that we are going to talk about today, the process of getting there, is going to last at least 18 months. You can push it to 12, but I guess that if you start with 18 months ahead of you, you will have a lot of options opening up for you, rather than having, you know, the rush or maybe limited options because of time. So we are going to talk about these 5 steps. These 5 steps are going to be the organized way to get there. Okay, so let's start with research your options. What do we talk about when we say research your options? Well, the first thing I want you to reflect about is that there are more than 4,000 accredited higher education institutions in the United States. So even if you have it very clear that you want to go to a specific university, I think that having this amount of options gives you the idea that it would be clever for you to research your options, see if you have maybe other opportunities available, if maybe considering options will make it easier for you in other areas or other steps in our process. And before, when we were talking about the universities that we had an agreement with, these are the universities that we have an agreement with, and it's an agreement of collaboration. They help us with a lot of information available for you. Today we have a guest, Magdaleno, that is going to be talking about his university in specific. And just like him, we have a lot of representatives from different universities that handle a lot of information and make opportunities available for you. We talk about options, and we also talk about priorities. What are your priorities? This is a step where you should be defining what you want to do. What is your higher priority? Maybe going to a specific university, maybe just start researching or start making networking for you to research, make a specific research project. What is the thing that you are pursuing when you think about this opportunity? Find a university that best fits you, your needs, and your visualization of this opportunity and this process. And be sure that institutions are accredited. Okay, let's go to the next slide, just a minute. Sorry about that. When you are deciding your options, when you're talking about your options, we are going to help you decide on what type of institution you want to pursue. There are basically 2 options, 2 types of institutions that you can pursue: community colleges and universities. Community colleges are mostly public. They offer associate degrees and 2+2 programs. What is a 2+2 program? Is a program where you, aquí lo tengo, just a second. Oh, sorry. It's a program where you start studying 2 years to pursue an associate degree, but you have the open option to go to another type of college and pursue a 4-year university for a bachelor degree. So it's a starting point, as a pathway for your bachelor degree, starting with an associate degree. So you will start studying 2 years in a row, getting an associate degree, and having the option to pursue a bachelor degree if you add other 2 years of study. So that is a very specific characteristic that community colleges have. And they have a special emphasis in English as a second language. They usually offer very interesting programs for you. Universities are usually private, private and public. They offer undergraduate and graduate programs, bachelors of arts, bachelor of sciences, bachelor of fine arts, etc. And they are based on diversity. They are very characterized by their diversity, the diversity that they show in their programs and in their community. We are going to be sharing some of these links, online researchers, for you to just make sure that you have some options available for you. I'm going to share some tips that you may find useful in this searching your options. Write all your notes on a notebook or an online document, so you have a progression of this process. Where you start, what are your priorities at the beginning, and how this process, finding more information, getting to know more institutions, make your ideas evolve as well. Maybe your focus will change or shift once you start looking at your options, right? So just keep a record so that you can understand where you come from. Define your priorities. Once again, be very honest with yourself. Find a lot of information that makes your decision an empowered one. Highlight all the relevant information from high school according to your interests, and compare the information of all the schools that interest you. Maybe even do some charts where you can compare the characteristics that some schools offer in contrast to others. Okay, so you have here the web pages, and I guess my colleagues can share them with you as well. Okay, so that was our first step. Just research your options, right? Now, most of you shared that you were nervous or more apprehensive about how to finance your studies. Maybe this is a topic that usually hold a lot of worry, a lot of stress for most of us. So what can we do? Start a financial plan. Start your financial planning as soon as possible. It doesn't matter if you don't have anything right now. Maybe you won't be able to get everything you need right away, but starting the process immediately and being organized is a good, solid first step. Living and studying costs may vary within the United States. So it would be a great idea that researching your options, you take this into consideration. Big cities are very popular. A lot of people want to live in big cities. They are very attractive and they offer a lot of perks, like, I don't know, attractions, always having something to do, but they also have a specific price for living. And usually institutions are a little bit more expensive there as well. So when you find your options, when you're researching your options, it would be a good idea for you to hold this idea in your mind. How expensive is it to live in this specific area? How convenient is it? Maybe it's cheaper, but transportation is a little bit expensive. Does it compensate? Maybe this is a good idea to have to just keep in your mind. Look for ways to reduce expenses immediately, but also as a way of just a lifestyle. You are going to be on a budget for quite some time. So I think it's a good idea to be very vigilant on our expenses from now on. Look for special opportunities and financial aid wherever necessary, wherever available for you. And that would be a great idea to have in your head as well when you are looking for your options, when you're researching options. Maybe some institutions are not as famous, but they are very well equipped, they're very attractive academically, and they can also offer some financial help that would alleviate the burden of living in another country and attending a program in another country, right? Another tip, send your financial aid application along with your admission application. Your financial aid application would be a very powerful tool for you to look for financial opportunities and support in the institutions that you aspire to participate in. Okay, so this slide is a very informative one. As I was preparing this presentation, I thought how informative this chart is, because this that you are looking at on your screen will tell you an approximate amount of what you are going to be needing in the following months, in the following 18 months in this process. This is the application cost calculated in dollars, okay? So the process, for instance, starts with application fees. They're approximately $60. They vary from 35 to 100 according to each institution. And well, we recommend you to find at least 6 options. We recommend you to find from 5 to 10. 6 would be a great number of institutions for you to consider in your options once you start researching your options, because we calculate that number would give you a good amount of opportunity to see the variety of programs, facilities, philosophies, everything that implies the institution that you want to go to. So 6 is a good number is a good variety for you to choose from, but also it's not a number that would overwhelm you. And this number that you see on the first line is something that you may consider into that number, into calculating how many options you want to open for you. Each application then is going to be around $60, and you can apply to as many as you want, really, but we recommend around 6 or 7 institutions. Your documents are going to be around $20, and you may need to process your documents around 3 times. Translation of your documents are going to be around $100, but once you translate them, you don't need to do it anymore. So that is only once. The shipping will vary according to the institutions that you want to go to, the institutions that require your documents once the process starts, etc. Another important step into your process is the TOEFL IBT or the IELTS test. That is around $180. Hopefully you will need to take it only once and get your desired or required score, but we don't know that, so visualize that. And maybe if you consider that you need to improve your English before you start your process or your exam, you may want to consider also a good English course before your TOEFL IBT exam, right? Once you have your TOEFL IBT exam or your results for IELTS, you may pay for some submission of extra scores, which are $20 each. And what I mean by that is the institutions that you may send the official scores to. IBT, TOEFL IBT has around 6 or 7, I don't remember right now, I'm sorry, free shipping or delivering results. But you may also not register the institutions until you are sure of your answers, right? So you should consider some extra fees just in case. The same for ACT or SAT, in case that they ask you for these exams. They're around $110. You may take it once or twice. And you may consider also submission for extra scores. Some preparation courses, as I was telling you before, they calculated here in 1,000. Oh, just a second, please. All right, so this chart right here is showing you the program costs and living expenses in the United States. So just for you to get a general understanding or idea, visualization again, right? If you're going to start this process, it's a great idea for you to visualize how does it look like in money. So consider tuition and fees and consider these 3 options and see how big the difference is between Harvard and San Antonio, for instance. Harvard is a private university, whereas San Antonio is a community college. And you can see that the number here is just very different. I want you to also reflect on how different cost of living would be, right? The housing, books and materials, travel expenses to get there, personal expenses. And you can see the total cost calculated here. It's just a calculation, of course. But you can see here how impactful your choice, the first step of this presentation is. That you research your options and you see what is available for you, because I know that Harvard has a high prestige, and it's due. They're a great school, but there are also very great schools out there that are waiting for your participation, that are eager to get you, and that are very flexible for you to ask for some aid, for some support, even financially. So just consider this. Remember, this chart is just informative, but it's very graphic in a way, right? Okay. Well, talking about financial aids, for Mexicans, the only source of financial aid is the one coming from the higher education institution in the US. For people who has dual citizenship, Mexican-American, I mean, they have FAFSA. I invite you to research a little bit more about it. There might be other financial options for you, such as just debt or other financial products available for you as a US citizen. And while other nationalities may contact Education USA local advisor to get more information about it. But I guess for everyone, there is an option. Just remember that that shouldn't stop you from applying and from just considering this option. Mm-hmm. Once you have your options and you have the finance for your education, you should complete some applications. As I told you before, we ask you to have some options available, around 5 or 6. 6 would be a great number. And what are the requirements? Well, for community colleges, they usually have online application. The application is for some free, and they need the transcripts of your documents, of your official documentation. For universities, usually they ask for standardized tests, for letters of recommendation, for essays, and sometimes, depending on the area of expertise or the area of study, they may ask for a portfolio of evidence. Well, you need to consider application has an application fee, right? Web pages to send the applications. I have some links here. Common App is a very popular one, but we have some others like Apply Texas, right? Well, each application has its own application fee. Sorry about that. How much does it cost? Well, it depends on each institution really, and you need to go to the website of that institution. Once you have used our researchers, our programs researchers, and it would vary very much. As you saw a couple of slides before, the cost of application will vary according to the institution. You can request an application fee waiver and see what the response of that is. Another important thing to consider are the English tests. Remember that you are most likely be required to attest a higher level of English, maybe B2, CV1. So you need to be considering that into your process, into your 18 months. Consider that learning a language is really investing time, doing stuff every day during an amount of time. So you need to consider that and distribute that time along the 18 months. If you are in an intermediate level, maybe you won't need that much time. But if you are in a lower level of English, you really need to upgrade your domain of the language, okay? And consider you are, well, the desired result is that you would get your results, the results that are going to be asked by the institutions on the first time that you do your exam. But it's possible that you will need to take the exam more than once. So consider that in your calculation and your organization. I have here some of the prices for the exam and the websites where you can find more information, even resources for you to practice. If you're just a little rusty and you don't need to prepare your English, you already have the level, I would pretty much advise you to go to the websites and find for the free online practices. They will be very useful for you to prepare. Just a minute, please. Okay, so the standardized test, like the ACT, costs around $150 to $166, and the SAT around $92. I also share here the web pages where you can register, and I guess find also some important information and resources for you to take the exam, okay? The school documents that you will be required is your third year of middle school, your first year of high school, second year of high school, third year of high school, grade point average. School documents must be in English or include an official certified translation, just your official documents that prove your academic level, right? And make sure that you are locating an official translator and give him enough time for him or her to get your documents translated. The letters of recommendation are usually asked to professors or teachers that know you, that you feel that you have the impression that has a good impression on you. They ask for 2 or 3 letters of recommendation, so keep that in mind. Think about your options. They're sent directly, usually through the application form. So it's a website. You won't be able to read your own letter of recommendation. That is, the professor is going to write it and send it directly. So that is something that you need to consider when you ask someone to write a recommendation letter, okay? They're also most likely going to ask you to write some essays. Take advantage of this space to demonstrate that skills that make you unique, but also to show off your personality, to show who you are, and to tell your story a little bit. You can demonstrate your character and personality. Admission committee will know you through these documents, so it's very important that you're very clear when you're writing it. It evaluates your writing English skills, so it has like a double objective: to get to know you and for you to display your knowledge and domain of the language. Make sure that you have an approved reader here, right? So the calendar, we talk about it a little bit at the beginning. This is what the calendar looks like. You're going to start in spring, and by your second fall, you are going to start your academic program. You're going to go to search your programs and school, maybe in spring. This is just giving you a general idea, right? By summer, you are going to prepare your test. By fall, you have already made your applications. By winter, you send your applications. By spring, you receive admission. By summer, you prepare for your departure. And by fall, you start your academic program. Okay, so Magdaleno, I don't know if you joined us already. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to welcome Magdaleno, Dr. Magdaleno Manzanarez. He is Vice President of External Affairs at Western New Mexico University, and he's our main speaker today. I want to welcome him. We have, well, we could talk a lot about Dr. Magdaleno, but we are not because he has a lot of information to share with you, especially about these very special, specific institutions, which are called Hispanic Serving Institutions. Let's learn about these institutions, and let's learn with Dr. Magdaleno Manzanarez. Welcome. The floor is yours.
I'm sorry. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and hopefully I was listening to your presentation, and I know the students have listened, taken notes, and there's a lot of information, obviously. So I'll try to be as brief as possible, knowing that sometimes our span of attention is not that big or that large, particularly when we are almost at the end of the day. So let me just, I guess it's the next, so you went over most of this. One of the things that I just wanted to mention in terms of the number of college students that are enrolled in American universities is about 19 million. 1/5 of those are Hispanic or Latinos. We are looking at around 4.5 million Hispanics enrolled in colleges in the US. On those 4,700 or so colleges and universities in the United States. So when you look at this, or the students look at this, and the question is, well, there's so many choices, but what you illustrated was that out of that universe of institutions, they have a lot of choices, from the basic ones, as you mentioned, the community colleges, to research universities, whether you're talking about public universities like, I don't know, UC Berkeley or Harvard or Princeton or UT Texas, UT Austin, or any in Texas of the UT system, etc. So there are many, many choices. The question here is to be pragmatic, to have a clear objective in terms of the kind of education that you want to acquire. And based on that, then you continue with the plan that Ms. Molina already kind of sketched out for you guys. So the important thing here is to be realistic. Let's dream about things, and let's dream big. And then based on that dream, on that vision that you have for yourself and your family in terms of education, then let's be pragmatic about what out of that dream is conceivable, is doable, and both from the financial part to the timelines, the human resources, meaning your own stamina, your own strength to achieve those goals. That goes along with academics, academic achievement and what have you. But the important thing here is that you have a menu of choices from those community colleges that give you actually two options. One is to complete your AA degree in technical areas, and the other that prepares you to transfer to a four-year college if that is your plan. The AA degree is equivalent to what is called sort of a technical degree in the first 2 years of college. So you can actually achieve both. You can have, let's say you're interested in health-related areas. You can have a very sound education in terms of being a technician, if that's what you want to be, in areas like, I don't know, welding, welding in the water, welding ships, welding oil rigs, welding that kind of stuff, building airplanes. Just to give you an idea, some of these technical degrees get you, like in the welding, sort of industrial welding, start about $80 an hour, just to give you an idea, if that's what you want to do. And you never know until you go and see if that's something that you like. It involves artistry. It involves technical knowledge. It involves a lot of technology in that sense. But anyways, that's that. So you can do that, and or you can take all the courses that you will need in order to get your BA, all the general education courses. So you can get those out of the way in a community college if that is an option. Let's put it that way. Let's say it's too expensive where you want to go. Well, and there is a community college in that area. Maybe what you want to do is to take all your general education requirements in the community college, which is much less expensive than a four-year college. And then once you do that, you transfer to a four-year college in whatever area that you want to. Community colleges offer a whole variety of degrees that you will find that you wouldn't need to take any other classes in the four-year college to achieve your objective, whether it's engineering, whether it's medicine, accounting, whatever it might be, you find it there. So there's that option. That's one way of doing it. The other is to go directly into a four-year college, whether it's private or a public one. So, and I just wanted to say something that you mentioned, Ms. Molina, and that the funding for public institutions, for example, is both. You can find funding from the institution. The institution gets its funding from mostly, almost entirely, from the state where the institution is located, and some of it from the federal government, not very much from there. So, and most institutions also have their own foundations, private funds that are managed by the university's foundation, that are given, most of them, for scholarships in different areas. So there's that source of funding that might be available. So when you do your research, look around in their web pages or ask whoever you are in contact with at that institution if they have a foundation, and if the foundation underwrites scholarships for students. Be specific for foreign students. Be specific for Mexican students that are coming to study to that institution. That way, you get the answer that you may want. And yeah, let's just move on forward, please, with the next one. What makes an HSI, a Hispanic Serving Institution? Well, to be recognized by the federal government, by the Department of Education, to be a Hispanic Serving Institution, that institution, whether it's a community college, whether it's a four-year college, private or public, it doesn't matter, they have to have at least 25% of their student population, of their enrollment, that is, 25% should be of Hispanic descent, Hispanic or Latino descent. And wouldn't you know, the largest Hispanic serving institutions in terms of numbers are mostly located along the states that are in the border area of US, Mexico, and Texas, and Arizona, New Mexico, California, and also in Florida, as well as many other states, about 28 states throughout the nation. So you will find the likes of San Antonio Community College that was cited in one of Ms. Molina's slides, to the likes of the University of Arizona. The three public institutions in Arizona, for example, Arizona State University, which is in Tempe in the Phoenix area, the University of Tucson is in Tucson, and Northern Arizona University, The three of them are Hispanic Serving Institutions. And so, or you go to the University of California, Riverside, or the University of California, Merced, they are Hispanic Serving Institutions. You go to the University of Texas at Rio Grande Valley, for example, it's a Hispanic Serving Institution. So you get all, Florida International University is Hispanic Serving Institution. So you get the idea. So you have just about anywhere you go in the US, you will find a Hispanic Serving Institution or an emerging Hispanic Serving Institution, which means they are up there, but they have not crossed the threshold of the 25%. So you have about 400 of them this year that might be eligible to apply the next few years to be Hispanic Serving Institutions. Now, Hispanic Serving Institutions serve about 60% of the total of Latino students enrolled in colleges in the US. And so they do serve, 2/3 of the Latinos in the US. And that is a huge achievement. This is not it's not for me, it's a new phenomenon because I was alive. For most of you, probably not, because you were not alive. But Hispanic Serving Institutions really began to be called so in the last 30, 35 years or so. And if you want to find more about this, you can always check the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities. It's called HACU. And it traces all this history for you if you want to. In 1986, more or less, HACU was founded, this Association of Hispanic Colleges and Universities. And it tells you why it was necessary. And there are some internal dynamics in the US that made it necessary. But for you, as coming perhaps as a foreign student or international student, the relevance, I suspect, aside from the menu of options that you have, academically speaking, is that we, and I say we because I work in the Hispanic Serving Institution, we are sensitive to cultural differences, particularly if we are talking about Latino culture, and more specifically, if we are talking about Mexican cultural traits, that we are sensitive to that. We have the architecture, so to speak, in our academic programs, in our student services that cater to students who might not necessarily fit into the academic culture right away for many different reasons, internally and externally. And externally, in this case, because we are talking about Mexican students, is that most Mexican students are not familiar with the culture of education, of higher education in the US. We are very rigid academically. Cheating in exams is grounds to kick you out of the university. There is a degree of honesty and all that is prevalent in all institutions, but also in terms of how do we help the students understand the dynamics, the nuances of the differences between how we might act as a student in a Mexican institution and how you must act in or behave in an American institution, because there's a lot of freedom to study, freedom to do whatever you want. But if you are not that responsible, you may end up taking a road that is not beneficial for the outcomes that you came here to begin with. So those nuances that are not obviously, at the very beginning. You are taught through the whole atmosphere in the university and the kind of advice that you get that those nuances are very relevant. They're very important. So we are very sensitive to those kind of things because we have that experience internally. When we go to college and we don't know how to do this, that, and the other, because let's be honest, at least internally, most of us have gone to college and sometimes we are the first person in our family to go to college. So we don't ask our relatives how to swim, how to maneuver things in college because they don't know. And so we have that rich history of being sensitive to these differences. And we are used to that. So, and I know I will not be labored this point. Just suffice it to say that we are prepared for these differences and accept them and enhance those differences in a positive way. And no, Hispanic Serving Institutions are not only for Latino students. I just mentioned some of the institutions, and anyone can tell you that we serve the whole world, but we pay close attention to Hispanic students. I almost said all this already. All fields of studies from, if you want to learn to be a barber, cut hair, do nails, you find it in institutions of higher education, community college, for example. You wanted to be a physicist, you find it. U of A, for example, the University of Arizona, is one of the 10 top universities that get more grants from NASA in the US. That just gives you an idea. Some of the best STEM or science, technology, medicine programs are at U of A, just like any other big university in the US or in the world for that matter. So you have that. We are all over the place, whether we are a full-fledged Hispanic Serving Institution or then one that is moving into that, you find these institutions all over the place in the country and at all levels of institutions, as we mentioned. I think I just repeat this thing. Get familiar with the institution. You have an idea what you want to study, what you want to become, and then you kind of look at those 4,700 institutions and you say, okay, well, I want to go somewhere geographically, whatever you decide, in the East and the West and the South, whatever. You are looking for an urban institution, you're looking for a rural institution, you're looking for smallish type of institution, private or public, or a large one, whatever it is. Those things that that you are thinking that you want to be in terms of just the physical presence. So make sure that you do that, but also look at the programs. What does it take to achieve this particular program? What are your intentions in terms of career-wise? One thing is to think or to prepare yourself for a field of studies. You want to study, I'll just put myself as an example. I wanted to be a medical doctor. Then when I was in high school, I didn't like chemistry. In fact, I never took chemistry. I said, forget that. So that did away with my sort of dream of being a physician. Then I began to think as summer came and it was time for me to go to college, well, maybe I want to be a lawyer. And went to register for classes that fall, and some of the courses that appear that might be useful for somebody who wants to be a lawyer were not what I was thinking of. I said, forget that. So on the spot, I said, hey, this looks something that I like. Because I look at the catalog of classes and, well, really what I wanted to study, but I didn't know, it was political science. And political science had to do with a whole bunch of stuff that had to do with government and such. And so that's what I did. What do I want to do? People ask me, what are you going to do with political science? Are you going to be a politician? Well, I learned that no, I'm not a politician. I just want to make a living studying those who are politicians. I found out, after a semester or two that that's what I wanted to do. And then somebody asked me when I was graduating from community college, my political philosophy professor said, what are you going to do now? I said, I don't know, but I'll go and complete my BA. And, but he said, yeah, well, that's great, but what is your career? What do you want to do with it? I said, well, I just want to be like you. I want to be in front of the class, facing the class. I said, well, he said, at what level do you want to be? I said, well, in college. He told me, if you want to be a community college instructor, in those days anyways, you have to get at least a master's degree. And if you want to be a college professor in a 4-year college, you have to get a PhD. I said, okay. So guess what? I made my decision there and then because I admired my political philosophy professor. I said, well, I'll be a 4-year college professor. So I geared myself towards that. And I transferred, and that was my objective. I didn't plan that, but that moment, 2 years into college, that's when I made my decision. And I am telling you all this because if you think you are coming to the US and you have all the courses once you go into the first semester that these are all the classes I have to take, no, it doesn't work that way. Yes, you may declare a major. Let's say you want to be a lawyer or something more adaptable, I guess, to the US. Let's say you want to be a physician, okay? Well, then you begin by taking some basic classes along those things, probably 1 or 2 every semester that will lead you to that degree eventually. But you have to, those are your decisions. Nobody's going to be forcing you to take them. And then you have an option of, okay, you have to take social sciences. You have the option of 10 courses. Which ones are you going to take? 3 of them. Which ones? You decide whether you want to take anthropology, sociology, psychology. So there's a lot of freedom in that. And if you don't get the right advice, you may end up taking a whole bunch of courses that amounts to nothing in terms of what you want to do. So those are the things that you have to be aware of. And how do you manage that freedom, that intellectual freedom? You may end up changing your mind. I have a couple of students who came from Zambia who came to study nursing. Well, they just graduated last May in international business. Their parents were not too happy at the beginning, but I guess they survived. And so that's where we are. At Western New Mexico University, where I am, where I work, I have worked here 16 years as a professor of political science. And you may look for my books somewhere. I don't recommend them because they put you to sleep. And then for the last 9 years, I've been the vice president. And due to the work of both our president and I suppose myself, we have created opportunities specifically for students from Mexico. Initially, just, in the states of Sonora, Chihuahua, Sinaloa, Nuevo León. But increasingly, we are doing this closer to where the most beautiful region in Mexico is located, which is Michoacan. What we have in terms of scholarships, because it's one of the things that you guys were talking about, and it's very important. So far, I haven't talked to my president, but I'm almost 99.9% sure that if I ask if there would be some sort of a scholarship for students coming from Michoacan specifically, and those who come through Education USA, that I can almost guarantee you right now that you will get about 50% scholarship on tuition. And that's my word, and that's my affixing my signature to this document, although it's virtual, that I can assure that is important. And though we have collaborations with institutions in other countries, and I mentioned this because sometimes students want to explore some other avenues. We do have in Brazil, and Zambia, and Spain, all of the bunch of Mexican universities. Also, I'm working with UNIVA in La Piedad for a project that we're going to be doing next summer also. So both private and public institutions. But the important thing is in this conversation that we have these scholarships available for students, not all Mexican students, but certainly, like I said, right now, Michoacan. And that's because it's the state also that's neighboring to the state where I was born. So there, it has some weight, I guess, that. So start applying. Remember, sometimes when we are younger, a month may look like a year, and a year may look like a century, but believe me, time goes by very fast. So, and if you have any questions about anything, Ms. Molina has my contact information, and I will be happy, or any of my staff will be happy to chat with you directly or through Ms. Molina. I mean, we want to keep her busy too. So we will be more than happy. Thank you so much.
Dr. Manzanarez, thank you very much for the information that you shared with us today. It's a lot of information, as you said. From my part and from your part, all the participants got a lot of information. They were asking for a list of Hispanic Serving Institutions and some other questions that I think might be better answered with some tools that we have shared in our chat. But if you didn't get the information or the tools, the websites that we have been sharing in the chat, you can always communicate through our social media and our contact information that you see on your screen. I want to thank everyone. I want to thank especially Dr. Manzanarez for sharing his valuable experience and knowledge. And I want to also thank you for joining today. I'll see you around. Start your process today. See you.